So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our second event in the Women in Digital Innovation Series. We are a community, Women in Digital, of over 6,000 members, and we've successfully hosted over 350 events across Switzerland. And if you'd like to learn more, or if you'd like to donate to our cause, we welcome you to visit womenindigitalswitzerland.com. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to share in the chat, and I'll share this link in the room here after the event, a short link to a survey, because we use that information to plan our future events. And we are really here to serve your needs. And so I'm Karen Bavnani, and I've been working in the field of innovation, and I've been a member of Women in Digital Switzerland for years. And I'm honored to be your moderator, and I'm thrilled to introduce Andrea Kates. She's our workshop leader, and Andrea is a highly accomplished Silicon Valley based innovation advisor. She's got extensive experience as a former tech CEO, and she's also the author of the award-winning book, Find Your Next. She's developed end-to-end leadership training that is focused on strategic futures. So Andrea's reputation as an influential thought leader and consultant is well earned. And we're here today to learn from her how we can take deliberate steps to embrace new technologies and build new capabilities through innovation. So please join me in extending a warm welcome to Andrea. So Andrea, I invite you to share your slide deck, and I will ask you the first question.
Great. Just a moment. And just making sure that we will have somebody else admitting people in case there are other people that join.
I can do that, yeah.
Perfect. And hoping that people can see. Can you see the screen?
Perfect. So Andrea, tell us about yourself and give us a little bit of a feel of the agenda for today.
1 second. There are people coming. Well, I'm really happy to be here. As I said, I'm going to focus on some very important things that are practical, but also pretty cutting edge in terms of how we have to think about AI and technology. And I'll start with what we'll be doing, because our focus for the next 30 minutes is concrete steps. And the idea is, how do we make impact using the concepts like artificial intelligence, the tools that are out there now, and other emerging technologies? We'll be focusing a lot on AI. And today, in the next 30 minutes, we'll have 2 important takeaways, actually 3 important takeaways. Number 1 is priorities for high impact leadership. What do we do as leaders about this? The second is tools that work. So what are the things that are really valuable and powerful? And these are original tools that we have just come out with this year in terms of Get to Next as an end-to-end toolkit. So you'll be some of the first people to see some of these tools. And then the third that's most important is, what will we do Monday morning? What is your game plan so that you can really gain value from this? As Karen said, I came to this work because I was CEO of a SaaS software company in Silicon Valley that is the backbone to all of the innovation departments and teams that are trying to commercialize new technologies. And after working with 13,000 teams, I was very surprised. I placed my bets on the wrong teams to a certain extent. I didn't really know that there were differences between what was valid in terms of technology readiness and what was important in terms of the leaders being able to embrace these things. And so we had a number of real treasures that were brilliant ideas, unfortunately, that were left on the cutting room floor. And what I call these is orphan projects, projects that leaders know are really important, that the teams get initial support for, but ultimately they don't get the full ability to grow, and they can't achieve momentum. They can't really escape velocity. So today, what we'll look at is the idea of what we as leaders view as the future of our companies, and imagining that we all have skills. A practical example that I will weave into this is that we all have skills that we need to learn. What are the ways that we can do that best? And there's a company that is actually an AI. There's actually an AI-based company. Maybe someone can mute the person whose noise is coming out. Sorry, I can't do that. An AI-based company that thinks of this concept of how we would retrain people. We all have skills. We're all on individual paths. Our teams are on paths. Our organizations are on paths to get up to speed with all of these new technologies. And so my first example, as we start to set the stage for this, is it's because of companies like AI-based companies like Ahura.ai that we are able to really advance progress in innovation. And my final example is the Mayo Clinic, which took bioinformatics and health outcomes information and applied it to better patient outcomes. And the impact of having AI-based medical capabilities has been huge. The final slide that I'll share before we get into the first stage of this is that, and you can feel free, we'll supply you with this deck, but there are so many AI-based tools. It's not just ChatGPT. There are so many AI-based tools designed specifically for innovators to do lots of different things, not to replace us, but to look at social listening, to design and execute marketing plans, to shorten the speed for being able to get customer impact information. And so it's up to all of us as leaders to get up to speed. And it reminds me of when we all had to learn e-commerce a couple of, like a decade plus ago. It's the new thing that will change the game for all of us. And once again, I'm very pleased that you're people that are experiencing this, which is part of a module from the leaders course called Get to Next. And the tools we'll use today are embedded in that course.
So great, thank you. I'm going to come back to you a little bit on the earlier example, but in the meantime, I'd like to ask you, from your perspective, what does innovation success look like? So it's your perspective on innovation success for the individual, for our department, and also at the company level.
It's really important to have the challenge of trying to define innovation success, because one of the worst ideas that we've had is that everybody should define it exactly the same. And actually, it's more like the old story of the blind man and the elephant, where people in different departments and divisions will have very different expectations for our success. So the financial group might be looking at financial metrics, the R&D group might be looking at best applications of things that are coming out of the laboratory or out of the accelerator or the incubator. There are lines of business that might expect new products that are going to really resonate with our customers. There are people who are maybe our investors or our other stakeholders, our partners, our supply chain. So everybody can have a different definition. In response to that, I've written this set of definitions for what we'll be talking about based on what I know is practical, but also a way to get everyone to succeed, because everyone has to succeed for innovation to succeed. The first thing is for an individual. What is innovation success? Clearly, we have to drive new thinking. It's the prime definition of innovation is that tomorrow is not quite today. And so we have to drive new thinking. It's challenging to know which new thinking, but that's part of our role as an individual. And that role can come from someone who's designated as a leader or someone who's just a natural leader who comes up with, who becomes a catalyst for new ideas to come to fruition. We also define innovation success as being able to seed strategic initiatives. So on the one hand, there is a laboratory mindset where just exploration is very important, for sure. Within companies, a lot of times there is a link that's required between that exploration and seed initiatives that will be part of the portfolio of the company. And the other responsibility that individuals need to take on for innovation success is to look outside the four walls. I call it working on the business when we're also used to working in the business. And the innovation success requires us to look around and not always be in Six Sigma process execution mode. The final two things individuals need to do is piece together things from other industries. One of my favorite phrases is, let's not be the fastest snail in a snail race. And so if we're in gaming, if we're in banking, if we're in healthcare, if we're in manufacturing, whatever industry we're in, consumer goods, we need to be piecing together not just what's best practices for our own industry, but for instance, yesterday we were talking to a bank in the Gulf states in the Middle East, and they're very, very clear that the next company that will be a bank is actually today a telecom company. So what can we learn from industries that are not necessarily our typical industries to see what's ahead? That's our role as an individual. And then the final part is tech expertise. It is so fantastic to live in a time when we can all take Andrew Ng's machine learning course on Udacity. I mean, or Khan Academy, or thousands and thousands of ways to learn things. And we need to be able to not just have vocabulary, but to have skills. The departments need to experiment and test and pilot and develop what we're going to talk about in a minute called commitment narratives, where they need some validation as to whether new concepts at a small scale can really have a business model that works, to use design thinking to see if we've stretched the limits enough. So departments need to have teams that are different skills, diverse skills, teams of 3 and 4 that are in the midst of piloting and testing and experimenting. And that's what departments need to do to drive innovation success. And then finally, what a company needs to do, which is ecosystem mastery. We'll talk about ecosystems a lot today. Platforms, purpose, being able to orchestrate an ecosystem, being able to grow things to scale. I mean, a company needs to figure out, this is a fabulous idea. Maybe it won a hackathon. Maybe it's the great idea from an incubator, wherever you got the idea, maybe it's a partner, but how do you make it big? And the company needs to have an infrastructure to do that. And then clearly being able to do future back. So you might have a great idea. It's just not a great idea for your company. We might not want to go, for instance, a gaming company might not be interested in serving children. Maybe they are interested in serving children. But knowing that the innovation will have a home and that home has to align with your company's strategy, that's really important. And then I think resilience. I mean, one of the things that's great about COVID, not very much, but it did teach us that being resilient. We didn't predict it, but boy, a lot of companies were fantastic at responding.
So what does it take for technology to drive innovation? What is your perspective?
It's really, to me, very interesting to realize what has changed, because it used to be that technology had to start with technology readiness. Is the technology ready? 10 years ago, when I first started investing in and working in AI, there really there was nothing like low code, no code concepts. The AI was very technical. It was very hard for people who weren't deeply trained to really use the tools well. So the technology has to come of age, and that's critical. And I think now, for sure, the reason we're talking about AI is from a language perspective, from a visual perspective, from many, many perspectives in terms of developing taxonomies, ontologies, models, really practical ways of using AI. applied AI has come of age. So the tech has to be ready. The investment readiness has to be there because the company might say, well, that's lovely, but we really don't, that's not our priority. And so you need to get the people whose resources and funds will be moving these initiatives forward if you're going to get to innovation. And so that's a mindset change to make sure that your investors are on the same page with the needs that you're uncovering. The future readiness is the ability to know that this can be something that will be embraced by your customers in the future, that, you know, there has to be substantial, and scalability is part of that, you know, being able to be big and be part of the habits of your customers. So if it's a cool idea, but it's kind of a novelty or a fad, that's not really going to drive sustained innovation. But of course, the most important piece of all is human readiness. And this is a role that we all can play. I didn't used to think about human readiness level, but it turns out in all of the projects I've been working on with companies all over the world, you know, in India, in Europe, in Asia, in North America, in LATAM, the human readiness factor is the critical component. And a company in Colombia, for instance, that's called Rappi, has a huge human readiness level. They are so eager to use AI and other technologies to be able to fully embrace the next need of the customer. These are people whose human DNA, you know, they really, really care about it. And so their human readiness is high. And that's also a very strong motivation for everybody to get on board around them and learn the technology the way they need to really be great. I will give one other example because I like examples. There's a company, a investment group that I work with in Silicon Valley that does lots of investment. And for 10 years, 8 or 10 years, I've been involved with them. And they also have studios and labs, et cetera, in future of work, mobility, healthcare, financial, digital, climate, energy, all of these. And it's been amazing how the velocity of interest, the velocity of need has accelerated over the past 8 years. And my final point is, and this is something that's definitely worth more time than we have today, is that this is not an instead of mindset. So for people who were trained in SWOT analysis from 1969, for people who were trained in like Six Sigma, for people who were trained in open innovation, design thinking is from 1999, Blue Ocean, you know, these are all really important. Lean Startup, which is the backbone of the company that I ran, the software company I ran. These are all really important. But what I have discovered is that in applying AI and other technologies, the book I wrote 10 years ago, Find Your Next, which was about developing and discovering new cross-industry opportunities, as I referenced before. Now we actually have to get there. We have to do two things really differently that we'll talk about. We have to engage people more broadly in a very different way, and we have to activate them. We don't want plans. We don't want AI strategies that are shrink wrapped and sitting on a shelf. So what does it take to really get people to be all in?
So we're really eager to hear about your Get to Next model. How does this help us innovate faster?
So there are 5 steps, and I'll walk through them slowly. And I am so passionate about this that anybody who wants to sidebar with me, you know, this is my passion right now, because I believe so strongly that it's what's been missing and why those 13,000 teams were not all successful. It starts with envision, and I'll go through this in step-by-step in a moment. Expand, build. And by the way, that's where a lot of innovation has stopped, is envision, expand, build, full stop. But it turns out that these last 2 steps, engage and activate, are the secret to success. The second part of the model that I'll go through in a minute is that I have been judging hackathons and working at universities in, you know, Hitatsubishi University in Japan and Singapore Polytech and all of the, you know, Copenhagen Business School. And we have all learned elevator pitches, right? And it turns out that an elevator pitch that's like one size fits all is not the focus that gets you across the finish line. So we replace that with commitment narratives, which means, are you in? Are you going? What are you going to contribute? How will this make you a hero in your story, as opposed to, hey, here's an elevator pitch. Isn't this amazing? Aren't you dazzled by our genius? So the switch to it is to make sure that people are fully embracing the implementation of the ideas. I'll do this somewhat, briefly, but once again, we have a Q&A at the end, and I'm happy to go through this, as I said, for hours if you'd like to at any point. So the concept is to focus on not just coming up with a good plan on paper, but to really be able to get people to be excited about things and to get on board. And so the envision, expand, build, engage, activate starts with envision. And once again, this is a whole conversation, but envisioning can start anywhere. It can start with a customer need. It can start with a challenge. It can start with, we were just looking at, big problems to be solved, sustainability problems, compliance problems. It could be a problem around customers who don't have access. It can be that there's a new technology and you don't know what to do with it. I was just talking to a company yesterday that has a new ag tech innovation. And, they picture that this could really change the whole face of farming. Okay, that's great. So they envision. Then the idea is to expand. And I had an experience, I work, as I said, a lot in the Nordics, and there's a company called Lunar, which is a fintech company, and Astralis, which is a gaming, and people at EA might already know this company, but they realized that combining tribes is a really great way to expand. So what can a fintech company learn from the culture of a gaming company, of a gaming tribe, a whole ecosystem? And it turns out that there were unmet needs in the gaming community that weren't being served by traditional banks. Voila, right? That's how you come up with new concepts, is by expanding. This happens in healthcare all the time. We can look at the tech application as a way to enable it. We can look at cross-industry, and we can also look at business models. But my favorite is this notion of Frankensteining, that you take pieces of one part and put it together so that you can imagine something new. Build has been talked about quite a bit, and there are so many techniques that work well for prototyping from design thinking, for business model generation and validation from lean startup, and many, many other important. We stand on the shoulders of these methodologies. And we know that we need to nail it before we scale it, right? You don't want to just go off because we're feeling innovative that day. And so that leads to this final part, which is to engage. Means that right from the beginning, we need to look at our ecosystems from a few different perspectives. One is the profit, our supply chain and the value creation and value generation. A platform, so that we have to be interoperable with other people that we want to collaborate with and that we want buy-in from. And the ecosystems that are really powerful right now are the ecosystems of purpose, where, for instance, in the gaming arena, it was really clear that we wanted to enable young people to have access to transactional capabilities without necessarily the old-fashioned banks. So what is something where the regulatory, many players had to be part of that new concept, crossing geographic boundaries, the ability to transfer payments smoothly and to connect the dots. And basically the idea is that it used to be with elevator pitches that people were heroes of a story, like, this is amazing, and we would get $5,000 and, everyone would be so excited. But it turns out that everybody has their own story. People are trying to, if you're in a customer facing role, you want your customers to be well served. If you're in a financial role, you want to be responsible and have growth targets met. If you're looking at big ideas like sustainability and there's a moral perspective, if you're not a hero of that story, that innovation might not fly. And so that's the last piece, is to make sure that, as I said, that people are on board, that they're engaged for their own reasons, And with AI, we have to stop pitching this dazzling elevator pitch and instead say to people, okay, imagining that we have a new initiative that's AI based. Here's what I believe is important to me. Stakeholder A, what about this is important to you? And what concrete action might you take? And when you create a quilt that's based on stitching together these narratives, that's how you get to next.
So let's go back to leadership. And when we're exploring the use of the models, what is your advice on how leaders can have the most impact in whatever they're doing, whether they're an entrepreneur or whether they're working in a corporation, so that they can foster innovation?
Okay, that's a great question. And I wish we had tons and tons of time for this, but I'll do it in 3 beats. So there's something called a 4-beat story, which is a leader being able to know who they're talking to and summarize the ask in a crystallized way around what the potential is. And once again, you'll talk to, if you're in insurance, you'll talk to an actuary. If you're in gaming, you might talk to a developer. If you're in a creative field, you might talk to a designer in very different ways. So what's the 4-beat story? That's the first. Second is, and that's, for instance, where might AI help? So you as a leader know what it might do, but we want to find out what they would like it to do and what it might do to serve their needs. The second is for us to be able to draw an ecosystem. It's a great exercise. I encourage everyone to use this deck and say, okay, here's our ecosystem. That's their desired ecosystem. Imagining that we can automate things, imagining that we can have intelligent systems, imagining that we can use AI to significantly open the funnel for how much data we're able to analyze and what we can do with it and how we can project forward. What might that enable us to do? It's a really cool and important question. And then finally, there's something that I used to call the circle of trust. People that you trust and your trusted vendors and your trusted suppliers. But now I'm saying it's got to be a circle of must. People who realize that whatever it is that you're leading is a front burner, that they're really, really motivated to be part of this. And so the summary of this is that you have to define your innovation success up front, make sure that as you're going through it, you understand what success looks like and everybody agrees. This notion of technology readiness, investment readiness, future readiness, scaling readiness, but mostly human readiness level is the second takeaway. The third is to have an ecosystem approach where you make everybody in the ecosystem a hero in their own story. So I've got this great initiative, but it's not important for you to get on board because of my reasons. You want to get on board because of your reasons. So what is it about this new opportunity that can really make you a hero in what matters to you? And then, as I said, let's replace the elevator pitches with commitment narratives. And so my final part on this, Karen, is, people need to master new things. I mean, I think we all need to learn things. We need to connect with people, new people. We need to validate, because within organizations, there's a huge risk in doing something like AI and people getting a bit jaded and saying, oh, we tried that and it just didn't work and it was buggy, and that can be a negative. And then what do you do to get people to get into the real world, nail it and scale it, nail it and scale it. And I would actually love to ask the group if they would type in chat, and maybe Karen can see this. One thing that you might do, we've talked about a lot of things in the last 26 minutes. I would love to know and have Karen maybe feed us. If you could type in the chat or share in the room, what is one thing that you would really like to do? And I'll wait just a moment to see what people say. And if anything comes up, let me know.
Andrea, do you have a real life example where you have worked through the entire model with a successful outcome? Maybe it's one of Rabbi, or maybe it's
Yeah.
maybe.
I can't say the name of the company, but we've worked through the entire model for 6 years with a few different large companies. One is one of the largest automotive companies, and we worked with them both in the US as well as in China to look at the approach to cybersecurity and how to make products that would align with the emerging values around cybersecurity. Another one is a very huge company in India that is technology-based, has multiple divisions, very, very, diverse divisions. And the end-to-end on that was really establishing what it takes to have these interoperable parts to develop a culture of innovation for technology advancement. And that's just, and the impact of that, of the first one was the automotive one was both in EV, the electric vehicles, as well as in cybersecurity. There are some very exciting mobility solutions that came out of the 6-year project. In the India project, it was based on 2 big issues. One was a telecom project, and another one was a manufacturing project, where the smart technologies made this huge difference, both in things like, digital twins, but also the ability to use data as a powerful currency. And the third is a fintech project that I've been working on for years in the Nordics. And I can speak about that one. It's Copenhagen FinTech, which is an ecosystem. And their ability to engage people through this approach has been amazing. And the importance of an ecosystem of purpose. So those are 3 different industries, but we have multiple examples. We've been using this model for probably 10 years informally and 6 years formally. We also are working, and we worked with Fujitsu in their Open Innovation Gateway. Now we're working with a large construction company in Japan. And I worked with Roche in Switzerland, actually, as well. Does that answer the question?
Are there any other questions in the room? I don't see any on chat, but I think I can start. If there aren't any questions, I can ask you a question related to, there's a lot that's been said around generative AI. And so what is your takeaway on some of the things that we should already be doing around this? I know you showed a bunch of tools related to innovation and how we can embrace using those, but without really understanding the right problems to inventory, it seems hard to go in and look at the generative AI solutions, things that are really easy to bring in, because then you miss the bigger picture. So what is your guidance around that?
There are 3 things that we should do. Number 1 is I'm in a mastermind group. It's a very small group of people. We are challenging each other to read articles and learn together. One is a quantum computer person from Eastern Europe. One is an architect from London. I mean, we could not be more different, but we are very committed to learning together. And each of us has our own goals in terms of what we're trying to learn. So a mastermind group, I think, is really great. And it might even be that this community that is all gathered today could be a learning community, because that is, and what we're doing today, the more you have a group of people to keep us engaged, it's really important. That's one. Number 2 is online courses. I mean, I honestly do think that it used to be, when I was first trying to learn AI, this was, years ago, when it was basically like the Turing test and expert systems design, right? You had to basically, have a PhD and get into really technical fields. And it was kind of a rare air situation. Now I work with a group called Youth in AI Lab, and they're 14 to 17-year-olds that are taking courses that are online and sharing and learning together. So I think the first is a mastermind group. The second is online courses. And the third is within our companies to bring it, like almost have a chair in your discussion rooms called AI. And every time we have a conversation about data, especially metrics, the ability to do like ChatGPT. I mean, the thing that's interesting about language is I use it now all the time. You know, people are afraid that people are going to be writing their term papers and we should, you know, ban it from schools. I think completely the opposite. My writing has gotten so much better. I am so much more prolific because I use the prompts. So I think that's the third thing, is for us to be very good prompt editors, which is a new job description, by the way. They make $300,000. I was reading in an article the other day. That seems like a ton of money to me. But, you know, a prompt editor is someone who understands the bridge between the business need and the ability to do a search. You know, it's not just a linear search anymore. It's a complex set of search criteria.
So I have a question in chat. Thank you for that answer. Would you be able to share a bit more about your partnership with Roche?
Okay. Well, let me not misrepresent it. It was when I was working in the software company, and we were challenged to take their initial ideas in one healthcare vertical, which, I mean, I won't go into all the details, but and to get them to be able to do what I was saying, to nail it before they scale it. So it was focused on business models. It was focused on customer discovery and being able to figure out what it is that was missing from the spectrum of opportunities. And it was a project in validation, sort of design thinking, lean startup, and validation. We're doing a big project now I can speak about, which is throughout all of Canada. We're doing a big healthcare initiative that's bringing together a huge ecosystem for one disease state. And it's really interesting how technology can advance this. We decided that it would be the biggest set of input ever for the plan. You know, it's kind of this audacious goal. And so we're using something called Spark Tank, which is a way of getting like an open innovation tank to really expand, you know, how many people can give us input. Well, that's great, but then what in the heck do we do with it? Right. So, you know, in open innovation, because I've worked with Henry Chesbrough and he wrote the book on open innovation, we've been doing this for years, right? And the problem was, oh no, now what do we do? We've just opened this up to like thousands and hundreds of thousands of people. But now with AI, you can start to group it, and with using ontology, you know, see patterns of things that are emerging from the data. And then you can advance your insights so much more powerfully. And, you know, that wasn't possible 10 years ago. It just wasn't.
Any more questions from the audience?
And I would also love, just because I don't see everybody, to write in the chat, like what your takeaway was from today, because it really helps me understand what landed, what other questions you have. So I would love for people to raise their hands if you're in the room, write in chat if you're in there. You know, what's one key takeaway, either a question, something you're going to dive deeper into, something that was inspiring, anything, because that's very helpful for me. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Hi, Andrea.
Can you hear, Andrea?
Maybe I can.
Or you can come here closer if you, yeah.
Hi, Andrea. It's Heather Leeson.
Hi, Heather. Oh my gosh. Do you live there?
I do.
Oh my gosh. This is fantastic.
I actually want to move into the EA offices. They're very lovely, and I'm glad they host us. So my first
Can you come on camera? Can you get close enough to sit next to Karen?
I can do
Hi,
that.
Heather.
Hi, dear. Okay. So my takeaway is I've had a product that I launched, and I looked at your model, and I've done so many innovation models, and I was looking at the end, and I've been saying in my methodology report, I said, well, we've screwed up because there's a new product owner and there's not really working on the engage part. So now I have a slide that I can share with them that they kind of missed the whole other part of it. So that's good news. So sad news, but good news.
Well, it's funny because, you know, I've been doing a lot of work on my sort of personal brand, and the thing they always say, what would you like if your best friend is in a building and it catches on fire, you don't think, should I go in that building? You know, it's like, there's no question. You're absolutely this circle of must, right? Like that. And my circle of must is truly that the great ideas that are left on the cutting room floor make me, it's painful. I think it's so sad that we get things so close to being amazing, including, I'm going to stop sharing for a little bit so I can see people better. Including, initiatives that could save lives, initiatives that can change the face of sustainability. I mean, these are really important. And it's not our fault. We got all the way through to the prototype and felt really good, but this engage and activate is tough stuff. And so that's all I'm working on these days is how to get it the last mile, as they say.
True story. And again, sometimes organizations make product decisions. So I'm glad for the ammo that I will use in my conversation. Thanks again.
Awesome. Keep me posted, Heather. Great to see you.
So I'm going to pose one more question from chat, and then we can move straight to practicing with the model. So can you share your top 3 sources that you go out and you seek market info on advances on AI, articles, blogs, etc.? What are your top 3?
There is a company called Credo.ai, CREDO.ai, started by Navrina Singh. One of her co-investors is Andrew Ng, who is the founder of Coursera and, is one of the fathers of, machine learning, et cetera. They're in the Bay Area. I knew her ever since Qualcomm days, and then she was at Microsoft. And I think that what they're doing in terms of ethical AI is very cutting edge. And I'm not saying everything's about ethics, but I do think that they understand the deep issues. So I always check out what they're doing. The second place is, just things like CB Insights. I think that the research on top innovation AI is from them. I don't do that research myself. And so I always look and say, what are the top whatever? And that to me is important because they do the work and I don't. And then I have like this small group of friends that are just very deeply into AI from a technical perspective. And it's like my kitchen table group. I encourage everyone to do that because it's like, even before today, I did a little reality check with my kitchen table group. And these are people who are trained much more deeply than I am in the technology. One is a person I collaborate with that used to be at Fujitsu's Open Innovation Gateway. And he and I have been on the same team there for, maybe 8 years, deep thinker, deep knowledge in that. And then there's a person who works on AI from the perspective of future of work named Gary Bolles, Bolles. And he wrote a book called the next something of work, the next stage of work or something, the next rules of work. And he's a person I interact with who follows the impact on human.
Great, thank you. So maybe we can move now to the actual pre-work. Is there anything that you can share with us, Andrea, as we maybe take a break? And the group online can do this as well, or we can stop the broadcast. We can ask the team how they want to do that, but we'll go into your model, and
Great.
then we here will take maybe 15 or 10 minutes just to see if there are any ideas that are coming up. And then maybe we can share as a team, or if anybody has already some thoughts after our discussion, they can start to share as well.
Great. And I would literally, I used to not do this, but since I'm working on spreading the word about like, we all have to be thinking of engage and activate, I'm not shy about it anymore. Please connect with me on LinkedIn, please. I will also post something about this. I think I posted something this morning, my time. Chime in because the conversation has got to get broader. We need to understand from a practitioner point of view what you're dealing with. And so it's not about me and my ego, it's about us and this initiative. To please chime in on LinkedIn. So connect with me and chime in. That would be fantastic. And I can go into after hours now. Do you want to do that?
Yep.
Okay. So you have asked me the best way to get started and the tools. You've got tons of them. There's a whole book of them, but I took a couple. I think based on the conversation, I'll do a high level. Clearly everybody should be speaking up from this same 5-step toolkit. I think that it would be really great, if I were you, I would think first, Monday morning, what will I do? Okay. I would start with this, which is where might AI or technology.
Monday's a holiday.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Monday is maybe Tuesday, Tuesday morning. Good point. It's a holiday in North America as well, in the United States as well. So it's a bit of a back of an envelope is what I call it, just like a sketch on the back of the napkin. What's your hunch about where AI or tech could help? Don't worry if it's true or it's not true. We'd like to get to uncover customer insights. We'd like to get our products to be faster in the delivery. We would like to adhere to the new sustainability issues requirements. We'd like to protect the privacy of our customers more robustly. Whatever it is, just whatever your hunch is. And then how might you do it? Same thing, couple bullet points. Who might you need to involve? Don't know, right? So it might be somebody in your company outside. And then what would it look like if you succeeded? Remember in the beginning, we talked about, we might have a metric like Heather was saying, we've got to get this product out. It's got to resonate. It's got to be something that makes a difference, et cetera, right? Or it might just be, we need to get some really great projects for our young people because they're all over this. Or it might be like I was telling with the Lunar and Australis example, we have an ecosystem of gamers. We'd like to figure out the payments side of that so we can serve a whole tribe of people very well. Which other tribes might we connect with, right? Because 1 + 1 is 5, in those situations. So what would it look like? It might be, in that case, a success metric is our metric is, can we make a frictionless payment capability within our games with some sort of cross-border, geographically fluid opportunity, whatever that would be. So it doesn't have to be finance that is the only success metric. So I would start here. I just find it so helpful. And the other thing that I love to do, and I do it a lot of times in workshops and retreats, is, let everybody say the same thing. And then it's amazing how in about 15 minutes, you have a pulse of the group. Where might AI help? They might say it can't help anywhere. It's just a fad. Or somebody might say it's going to change the face of our entire company. And this is a very structured and productive way to figure out what the page looks like, So I think this tool is surprisingly simple looking and very powerful. So that's one tool. Did I explain that sufficiently, Karen? Okay, I'll do another one that I think is a good one. I think this ecosystem is really critical. When I was first taught about ecosystems in business school, it was like really a glorified supply chain, right? We would draw an ecosystem, but people now call it an ego system because we would always put ourselves in the middle, right? Like we are Royal Dutch Shell, and here's our ecosystem. It's all of our suppliers, it's our customers, it's our investors, but it started with us. And it was basically a way for us to draw, and I call it a profit mindset, our business model, our partners to help us make money, right? Or provide products or supply products to customers. But then when I ran the software company, what we were trying to do is to create, and I don't want to overstretch with the how robust our software was. It was not Microsoft or Salesforce, but let's imagine that it's Salesforce, right? Which it was not. What Salesforce has clearly is a platform, right? But they're trying to be interoperable with a lot of other players. That's true. It is an ecosystem, but it's very platform based. And so, for instance, if you're in manufacturing and you're in GE's platform, it might not be interoperable with ABB's platform, right? It's like it's interoperable, but you have these independent parties, right? These ecosystems of purpose is where I'm doing a lot of work these days. And like the initiative throughout Canada, we are trying to not just do it all, but to be the catalyst for, the orchestrator of parties that we don't have control over, right? But we know that if this disease state is going to get the research it deserves, if the patients are going to be served, we need to eliminate pain. We need to ultimately find a cure. It can't just be us. We need to orchestrate many people on behalf of a rising tide lifting many boats. And that's an ecosystem of purpose. And that's where I believe the power is right now. The first two are important for sure. The third one is where I think it would be really cool for each of you as a leader to brainstorm with a couple of people on your team. You know, if we were going to not just do our work, but also elevate our level of ambition, whether it's AI or anything else, but we'll talk about AI because that's our purpose. You know, what might it look like? Who might we partner with in that world? And then I think the last one I'll talk about is to decide to be a game-changing leader. Like, improving today is fantastic. That can be a goal. It could be that you're trying to redesign tomorrow, right? Like that's a little bit different goal. Reimagine the future, lead the future. And you don't have to have every innovation solution that uses AI be game-changing, you know, to the point of leading the future science fiction. You can improve today so much and free talent up to do other things, like me with my writing. I mean, I can do writing in about half the time that I used to do it. And it's better and it's more robust in terms of its reach. So I would say that those are the three tools I would start with. The only other piece I would think about is if you're already involved in an initiative like Heather was sharing, I would go ahead and do discovery interviews with people. You don't have to show them your commitment, but you give a thumbnail of what it is you're trying to do. You know, you share your 4-beat story with them. And without telling them what you think is important, really listen to what they think the value is, how they articulate the future impact, and a concrete action that they believe they could either contribute or help to bring to the table. And those are the tools.
Thank you, Andrea. So we have just 10 minutes left. And so my suggestion, unless there are members in the online audience or in the room who've already worked on the tool, is that if there's interest, work on the tool, we can come back in a very informal way and we can have a discussion. We just share. If you have an idea you just want to share, it gives us as a group, anybody who wants to join, the ability to learn from each other. So that's my suggestion, but there may be some more questions or there may be some more sharing that you want to do here today. Okay, thank you so much, Andrea. It was really, really informative and great case examples and great learning. So we hope that we have some things that we can take away and use in our lives, actually, and whether it's at home, because I know you've told this story before and now your son is getting married, but you had an idea, you expanded it. And so you looked at an earlier envision so that you came up with the right way that you could book your family trip. So there's different ways that we can apply some of the tools that you mentioned. It's within the work that we do or even outside of the work that we do.
And I'll just say that my favorite thing would be to be in person. You know, I travel quite a bit, as Karen knows. So during COVID, it wasn't an option, but I would love to figure out a way to do some workshops with you guys in person, because it's a lot more fun when we apply it and, you know, and work through the tools together. So that would be the vision. You know, my envision for this would be, how do we get together in a room? That would be so awesome.
That would be
great.
Let me just check. There's 3 new messages. Okay, great. That's it. Okay. So can I share the presentation, Andrea?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Feel free to share the presentation. Everything is I'm in the stage of my career where I'm trying to get the tools into the hands of people like you that are really going to embrace them and apply them.
Thanks so much.
And I'll
Thanks,
get you the video as well. Okay, great to meet everybody.